Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video I'll be sharing some ideas surrounding the poem Funeral Blues or Stop All the Clocks by W.H. Auden. So you might be wondering, what does the W.H. in W.H. Auden stand for? Well, his first two names were Weist and Hugh, and he was particularly celebrated for his wit and intellect. He wasn't simply a poet, but a playwright, a satirist, and to many, a very wise one. When World War II broke out in 1939, he actually emigrated to America, and there he met the love of his life, named Chester Kalman. In 1948, he won the Pulitzer Prize for his collection of poems called The Age of Anxiety. His poetry is predominantly concentrating on moral issues, and that's issues really with a strong political, social, and psychological context. This particular poem, though, concentrates on the process of grief and how our speaker interprets life after losing a loved one. So let's first of all read it. Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows round the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good. Emotive stuff. So, the first thing that strikes us is the use of imperative verbs, whether it's stop, cut, prevent, silence, bring, let. The first two stanzas are littered with imperative verbs that highlight how bleak the speaker's experience of grief is. It's as if they expect and want life to stop. Everyday life in particular is interrupting the process of mourning. They don't want time to continue going on. They don't want noise from the telephone. They most definitely don't want to hear a dog barking. So here we're struck by the brutal reality. In line 4, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. It's as if the process of grief is painful and sad, and that the process of grief is shared with others that are mourners. In particular, the idea of the muffled drum was traditionally associated with funerals and coffins. It was the ceremonial way in which the coffin would be brought out. The drum would sound first. So, firstly, we're struck in the opening stanza with the way that everyday life is interfered with. As we move into stanza 2, we see that this focus from private grief to public grief comes to our attention. This time, though, we're surrounded by some strange images, like aeroplanes moaning overhead. That here is personification. Scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Quite a grandiose decision and quite an absurd display of grief. And additionally, you've got doves being decorated with bows. And even more strange, quite an excessive and unreasonable request of policemen wearing black cotton gloves. These images surround the idea that nothing will ever repay the loss, and nothing could ever show how intensely this loss is felt for this person. No matter what is done in public, that private grief will still exist. That's heightened again by the time we get to stanza 3. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. Instantly, we're questioning here, is this the loss of a friend or someone who's more than a friend? It seems as if the one who has died was their compass for life, that punctuated what woke them up in the morning, what gave them drive, their working week, the thing they looked forward to, like their Sunday rest. The use of time, whether it's noon, midnight, working week and rest, exemplifies how much the speaker used to look forward to moments with this former friend or lover. In fact, the repetition of the possessive pronoun across this stanza and the use of first person does show us how painfully felt this experience of loss is. I was wrong. It's such a very sombre thought and emphasises just how lost our speaker feels. They were swept up in joy and love, and now they feel totally alone. The fact there's a colon and then I was wrong makes them seem all the more vulnerable. As we move towards the final stanza, though, we see a series of images that we often find in love poetry, of stars and the moon and the sun and natural imagery. But here we have to question the use of this natural imagery because our speaker is fed up. The stars are not wanted now. Put out everyone. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. The question is, what is the use of these romantic images of nature when you've lost the one you love? The image here of quite flippant imperatives like pack up the moon and dismantle the sun, well, that's impossible. To pour away the ocean would never work, except in your mind. Sweeping up the wood also implies just closing in on yourself. The alliteration of that final line, for nothing now can ever come to any good. Ultimately, this emotional and somewhat tragic poem packs a punch for its readers. By the end of that final line, our hopelessness is presented. The speaker makes it completely confirmed to us. This is a nightmare scenario. And this person's suffering, having lost their friend, is ongoing. This poem is often seen as rather simple because of its imagery and its simple pictures of loss. I suppose the question for you as a reader is, which images resonate the most with you? And how do they reflect the inevitable process for all of us at some point in life of losing someone we care about? Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar